Hey, Caesar. Hi, Dan. How you doing? Is the sound okay and the video? How you guys doing? Sound is good. All perfect. Great. What I'm going to do, I'm going to put my strap on here. I'm going to show you guys something. I got a brand new watch. Well, it's pretty brand new. Hang on. I haven't got a haircut in a long time. Hang on a sec. Now then, I won't spend all the time here pushing that up. There we go. Hey, Goldfinger. Keith, good to see you. What's good? Everything. Oh, okay. This is my new watch. As you can see, it is the Faux Breguet. Sounds like fall. Oh, let's see if we can see it. It's got the Breguet hands and the Breguet numbers. This is a project that a number of us took on. I finally got mine finished. The band on it is the band costs more than the watch, but that's okay. It's a lot of fun putting it together, and I'll be talking about that later. Hi, Yame, how you doing? Silliman, wearing the mask. Yeah, yeah. No, this is what I'm going to do. I gotta finish up a video on everything on that. Let me put this back. Still have some bits and pieces that I'm putting together. Um, well, what's new? The what are they called? I more or less discovered a new group of watchmakers called. I think it's in French, but it's like it means the circle of watchmakers, and they make all of the movements for Speak Marin, but they make a lot more of them. Apparently, they also make movements for uh, LVMH, and LVMH has La Fabrique du Temps, their own movement, and that's sort of an interesting thing. What's going on? Who's making the movements for him? Whom? And I think if they make good movements, does it matter? I mean, it could be, done by Fatty Arbuckle or something as far as are good movements. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? The open work line, yeah. Yeah, all of those things are, it's really funny. I was reading this thing by somebody, I think who was a PR person for Speak Marin. Now, this is after 2017 when Peter Speak Marin left. I don't know if he has anything to do with it. Okay, he may be a consultant. He may have done and done. Who knows? But I thought it was sort of interesting because it sort of brings up a number of things. One of which is the whole assumptions about in-house and not in-house, off the shelf and not off the shelf movements. Now, by an off the shelf movement, I mean a movement that they make. You can go and pick one out that you like. For example, Vaucheur has a very rich collection of movements and in all kinds of different configurations. And you can go in there and pick any one you want. And I thought, well, that's sort of interesting that they're going to, here you have this really good movement. It's a Vaucheur, but it really is an off the shelf movement. And the same is true with Crenode. And apparently, this other group is called the Circle of Watchmakers, something like that. It's right outside of La Chaux de Fonds, where they have their workshops. But the way that somebody was talking about the Circle of Watchmakers, this group, I think there are 50 people working there, and they make movements very much like Agenor. except you can't get I don't think you can get an off the shelf one from Aganor. In fact, I know you can't. Um, unless you've already had it and you want to have some more copies of the same thing. It depends on the design philosophy of that watch and its suitability in my collection. Okay. Um, I don't know. There are all kinds of things. I have discovered some really excellent ETA movements that are sort of in the background running some of my favorite watches. And then they have on top of it, on top of my Christian Vanderclaw, for example, or underneath the Christian Vanderclaw is an ETA, a very good ETA, because the doggone thing is incredibly accurate. And then also on my Chaumet Dandy Open Face. It's called Dandy Open Face, Dandy Arty Open Face. Okay. By the way, too, Chaumet quit making men's watches altogether. I don't know if they're going to come back with some more or not. But I'll tell you one thing. I think a good deal these days is a dandy, a Chaumet dandy on the pre-owned market or on the secondary market, because those watches are extremely well built. Yes, they have an ETA movement, but apparently they're using pretty good ETA movements. And I thought it was sort of, somebody I want a nice dress watch. Man, I tell you, the jewelry side of it, not in terms of bling, but in terms of the construction of the movement. Now, this one is my the movement is one from that I got from China through AliExpress, and all of the parts. I got the hands, the dial. It's a ceramic dial. I got everything I wanted because there was this $22,000 Breguet Classique, and we thought, well, let's see if we could put one of those together. And I think all of the parts for this, except for the strap, was like it's $80 or something. And it was a lot of fun to make too. Okay, what do you guys have? Transparency is something that needs to improve. Man, I tell you, Solomon, I wish they would do it. It's so easy. If somebody says, "Oh, well, we got our watches from this circle of watchmakers, or we got it from Vacheron, not Vacheron Constantin, but Vasser Fleurier, or from Chirode. Why do they make these things hard for me to say? Anyway, if those, yeah, but they would rarely do that unless they're bragging about it. And I've seen some begin to understand that, hey, these are good movements. And if you tell people who know about watches, they're going to recognize those as good movements. But for the most part, they like to say it's in-house. This is what bugged me about this one write-up, that I think it was sort of the only thing in-house about it was the write-up. And they were going on about this circle of, what are they called? The circle of something. Anyway, those guys are sort of, to me, a good discovery, because there's another really quality, and they will make them, to order for watches. And this is a way, so it's off the shelf. A Vaucher off the shelf, not a problem with me, because I know they're well made. It's by the same thing. You buy a Rolex, you don't care that it's it's like, a million other Rolexes, but it's done well. And I think it's the same thing true with certain of these movement companies. Some of them, like ETA, that you can't get anymore anyway. A lot of those in their higher class, they have the standard, the elaborate, and then the top level, and then they have a COSC. Some of those higher ones, man, are very, very good watches. But who's gonna brag about it? You know, they will say, "Well, we have an elaborate." It's weird. Okay, let's see what you guys think. Transparency, though, is so important. Dufour is a great example of this. Of course, if you have a watch with a Dufour movement, you want to tell everybody it's by Dufour. I tell you, your tip top watch companies have no need not to be transparent. I'm not a stickler for transparency because it's so rare. Yeah. It's like expecting YouTubers to stop clickbaiting. That's right. Hi, GT. Hi, Caesar. What's up? Okay. How important precision is for you? As an engineer, I love the tech and different solutions for constant force, but at the end, I do not care if my watch is off a minute a day. I don't care either. This is a good point, Caesar. To me, it's like what we're doing. We're dealing with an archaic technology. I don't care what they do. They stick, the silicon hairsprings is sort of like somebody borrowing something from another era to fix a problem that they haven't successfully addressed, which is usually magnetization, and that was a big problem. And then also the temperature changes, but Rolex did with their Parachrome. H. Moser did with their Straumann hairspring and balance wheel. So, I mean, it's not like, and those things have added to the constant force. Because if you put a silicon hairspring in and compare it to one from transitional metals, probably your silicon is always going to win, okay? Because they don't change. Whereas the on a something made of some kind of transitional metal, like steel or like niobium, that the really good ones are made from, niobium and zirconium or titanium. Those things they really work well, but I don't think they would beat a silicon hairspring. But the thing of it is that the watches that we get now mechanical watches don't even compare. They don't even begin to compare with the accuracy of a quartz watch. And so the way I look at it, well, let's see, if you're going to have archaic mechanics, let's see how we can do as best as possible with what we have. I mean, with this certain technology. It's sort of like if you want to sort of put together like a sort of Stone Age set of weapons, okay, for hunting. And so you'd have to use flint and things like that. So, oh, well, I'm going to go get my gun. Well, that doesn't count. I mean, it's the same thing as that silicon says, I give up. I can't figure out how they did it with Straumann or Parachrome. I'm going to put in silicon. Okay. Hi, Yoko. How you doing? Been to these two movement related. Would you go for H. Moser Pioneer or Roger Dubuis Excalibur? Oh man, that's a hard one. Either one of those, both of those, I really, really like. Either one. It's either one. That's all I can say. They're both, I suppose the Excaliburs sort of have a certain style. I think the one I have Uh, it's called a Sympathy, but it looks like later on they made a very similar one to it and called it the Excalibur. So and its thing is just keeps perfect time. I think they use an RD14 if I'm not mistaken in those. On the other hand, the Pioneer is going to have a Strawman hairspring, these balance wheel, and those wonderful colors. I like Mad Red. A Mad Red would be fun to have. Hi, Eminka. How you doing, man? Don't worry about stating the obvious today. Saw the tambour this weekend. It's a lovely watch. Yeah, I, I think so too. I know a bunch of people were just going, rah, 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 they're upset with it. But that was one of the ones that their in-house movement is not exactly in-house. In fact, it's exactly the same as the one that Speak Marin used from the circle of, I don't know, the circle of watchmakers. But I like it. A bunch of people, oh, those are awful and yak, 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 yak. Nah, well, different taste. But as Gorsh went, is it an $18,000 500? I don't know. That I suppose are any of them that much. Now compared to this is my $22,000 Breguet Classique. Well, actually, it's a Classique Nouveau, and it's also $82 that I spent on the parts to put it together. So what is it? I tell you one thing. This is closer to Abraham Breguet than the one made by Breguet, and I'll tell you why. It has a transitional metal hairspring, and the ones they're making now have the silicone hairspring. So, yeah. It also has the enamel dial too. All of that stuff, So it's like, how good is the timing? I haven't done that yet. I got to put it on a time grapher and then adjust it. But that's one of the things that I can do that you can't do with silicone. Everything is free-sprung. It's a free-sprung movement. Yeah, that's what it is. But I mean, I don't know if you can see this or not. The one, I got this one for the example. I don't know if you can see it or not. See that big stick right there? That is a regulator. And what I'll do is that I'll hook it up to the time grapher, and then with the time grapher, if it's too fast, I'll slow it down. If it's too slow, I'll speed it up until it's just right. But right now, let me see. Good grief. Look at these two watches. Their time is exactly the same. So this was at least for the first, I don't know, what hasn't been much long, about the first half hour. It's kept very good time. And this, of course, is my Larique. And this watch is, it is such a good watch. I mean, it's one of those watches I know I'll get up, I'll wind up, and everything will work beautifully well. One thing I do go overboard on, and I'll admit it, I love bands. This is by Jean Rousseau, and it's a shiny gator band. Love their bands. And then this one is by ABP Concepts Paris. They're both French-made bands. And this one, they had a sale on. It was like 30% off. And this one was normally this is for a 100% gator strap, is their sort of their entry level for that, because most of their straps are $300 and $400. They had a sale on it, 30% off, so I got it. So the strap is probably more expensive than the watch. I don't know if this is actually, I got the band for another watch, but I thought, well, I'll put it on this one for a while. Okay, let's see. Hi, reasonable skeptics. Hi, first time on a live stream for this channel. Well, how do you like it? Okay, I've been looking at watches around 10K range. I was wondering what you thought of the GS compared to the JLC calibers. Oh boy. You know, it's sort of like, depends on what you want. The JLC calibers, the ones, if you can find one on a secondary market or used market, one of their geophysics, to me, those are fabulous. Okay. I don't think there are many watches that are quite as precisely good as Grand Seiko's in some respect for a mass-produced watch. This is one thing I suppose that I like hand-built ones. I don't know. There's a certain kind of, they're too good. Don't put it that way. I have a feeling that most Grand Seikos, and again, I'm saying this because I'm not the only Seiko I have is a Seiko 5, and I love it. But there's something about them. They seem to be, the precision is in the engineering and the production engineering, very much like Rolex. Is that Rolex got this fabulous production system, and that's where you get your consistency, a lot of other things like that. And that's the way I look at all the Seiko watches, not just Grand Seiko. I have a Seiko design movement, the Soprod A10, and that thing is great. So it depends on what you want. Seikos are almost, I mean, they some of them are, as a matter of fact, are like almost quartz-like accuracy to them. So, and on the other hand, something about Jaeger-LeCoultre, especially the geophysics, where this was all about horology in a different way. So I don't know if that's reasonable skeptic. I don't know if that makes any sense or not. But I don't think either one of them is a terrible choice. But of those two terrible choices, I'd probably go after a GLC and get one. There's one I want. I'd love to see a true second. Is sort of an interesting watch because the mechanism for getting the true second is such a trip. I thought it was a Remontoir Égalité, so the way they have it set up. But anyway, interesting choice. I'm glad I don't have to make it. Good luck, man. Hi, Oz. How you doing? Hi, Ryan. Oh, good. Welcome. Hi, Mika. Hi, James. A JLC 761 is used in my Balm MS. Yeah, really? Yeah, I know that, James, the Jaeger-LeCoultre, some of their movements, they've been used, I think, in all of the Holy Trinity. I think Vacheron Constantin and Patek Philippe and Audemars Piguet at one time or another had a Jaeger-LeCoultre. See, the thing is that for years, Jaeger-LeCoultre was a movement maker, like Agenor. Agenor, you can't, they don't make watches; they make movements. And same thing with Vacheron, sort of a little different because of it's the way the ownership thing is part of a vertical organization owned by the Sandoz Family Foundation. Chronode, that's another one I think is very interesting. I'm very tempted to get a Chronode and get some guys together. I think if you can get as few as 10, and then you can do sort of a group thing. And I'd like to, that's very tempting. I'd also like to do a larger one, like get 100 guys together and put one of those together. Right now, though, my favorite is, my God, something by Agonor. Their movements are so incredible that sort of there's so many drugs out there for us. Hi, Equus. God, what's your opinion of Tudor Pelagos, the new carbon case chronograph in particular? You know something, I don't know what it is, but I've always had a soft spot for the Pelagos. I just like them. I mean, I just like them. There's certain watches you like without a lot of explanation, but there's something about the Pelagos that, I think what happened, I also like the Black Pay, but the thing is I got so tired of seeing Black Pays every time there was a new Grand Prix, either some tutors, usually one of the versions of Black Pays, they'd come out and they win, like in the Petite Aiguille category. And then give them a new paint job and they'd come out next year and they were the same thing. But I don't know, Pelagos, I just like. That's not a very good answer. I know, but and I'm not crazy about chronographs. That I can tell you. Chronographs to me are sort of unnecessary stuff that are in the watch, because unless you use it a lot, most people I know who have them. I have one chronograph, and that's a Beauvais Mono Rattrapant. I never use it. So perhaps because of the Richemont involvement. I don't know. Richemont, after Swatch has stuffed all of their watches now with silicone hairsprings, Richemont isn't looking so bad anymore. When you look at the Richemont brands, in terms, if you're talking about Richemont sort of doing away with the geophysic line, I think you're probably right. That's one thing I don't like to see. A friend of mine, a German watchmaker, was very upset about what happened to Alllange and Sunde after they were bought by Richemont, and he just said they sort of lost their edge on that, and then I think that's what they're going to try to make things more mainstream. I'll tell you a watch that I've always liked is Parmigiani's Ovale pantograph with a little expanding and contracting hands. I always just thought that was a trip. Thing of it is that the new guy who went in there, I think he came from was it Gucci? I think it was. Anyway, so he goes in there and there's pretty much the same movements, but then everything is very smooth and very, good looking, but they've lost that quirkiness that they used to have that I like, and also affordability. I mean, because you get them on the secondary market, where you can't. It's harder and harder to do that. Can we talk about resonance? Saw Armin Strom's resonance. It's amazing to see in person. Yeah, I saw it in person too when it first came out. I had my FP Journe resonance. Yeah, somebody worked with Armin Strom on that. Forgot who it was, but I'd read somewhere that they had done that. The resonance, I made a resonance too. I don't know if you guys saw the one that I made. I took two watches and carved off the distance between the two balance wheels, and they went into resonance. Had them on a little. This was a really fun project. I don't know if you guys saw that, but I did a thing on it one time. This right here. Uh, this thing right here had it was I had the two movements here. I think they're still around somewhere, but unless I've broken them. And then I even made a special one with cardboard. One of the things about resonance is that the two movements have to be on a single plate at some point. And so I tested it on this, and they went into resonance. Then I put this cardboard piece over it, and with the how did I do that? I forgot what it was. Anyway, with the cardboard, they didn't go into resonance, and that was sort of a fun thing to do. Resonance. I was really into it at one time. I still am. I mean, but there's only so much you can do with it. I don't know whether Armin Strong's. I forgot. Like I said, somebody had read somewhere that somebody had worked with him on that for the development of it. I don't know who it was though. You think you're probably right. GS is excellent in technology and less focused on hand craftsmen, at least compared to JLC. Is still assembled and partly polished by hand. So there's that. Yeah. I mean, like I said, there's nothing. It just, that I don't know. It's just one of those things. I suppose there's certain things that I like. For example, the Chaumet Dandy. I love that watch, but it's great looking. It's got a fantastic case. Because Chaumet used to make all the jewelry for the kings and queens and Napoleon and Napoleon's girlfriend and everything. So it was, it's sort of they're really good at making jewelry, and that's what a watch case is essentially jewelry, and a dial, of course. But they're, it's like, the movement is from ETA, and for most of them, I think. I found out yesterday too. I was going into Christian Vanderklaw, who has all the astronomical things. He's a Dutch watchmaker. His stuff, just very few have, I think, the base movement on very few of his are ones that he did. He did the complications for it. But most of his, in fact, one I really like and I may get is one with an ETA base to it, and then some other things. I really like it, and I may I may get it just because it belongs to a category of watches I've been looking at. Yama. Boy, yeah, I tell you, he has a wonderful long name. Yeah, May. Can I just call you Yeah, May? Anyway, Yeah, May. I didn't know that. And it's good to hear Blancpain's Villeray doesn't have silicon. That's good to hear. I have a Pelagos Chrono, Red Bull Racing. It's a fun watch. It sounds wonderful. At the Black Bay Chrono, very light on the wrist. Bulgari, yes, love Bulgari. They have that one now. Bulgari is another one of those watches that's really been coming up horologically. They made a real thin one and won some kind of prize for it. I think they may have even won the grand prize of the Grand Prix d'Horlogerie de Genève. It's a really interesting brand. This, again, is owned by LVMH. Imeke. He's octed it? Hi, Equus Lucas. Dan W. I have it too. It's such an amazing watch. That's great. Fat Angus, how you doing, man? Great to see you. I own both. If you're buying new GS, much better than JLC. There's little handicraft in JLC's cheap watches. Yeah, that's why I like the ones from the geophysics. It's not all. It's not the whole line. Okay. Ray. Yeah, I think it'd be neat though. I would really love to see SWAT say, "Hey, with the what's the what's the one that Glass Hood Original has, and it's got this butterfly shaped half is the for adjusting the beat, and the other half is for adjusting the frequency." They're sort of double swan necks. I forgot the name of the model, but boy, that's one. How can you have them be with them if you have a silicon hairspring? Hey, Angus, you got a finissimo. I think they are the ones that yeah. Oh, Ryan. Okay, I believe Armstrong worked with the Swiss Center for Electronics and Microtechnology to develop the resonance. Ah, great. Thank you. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Today is the beginning of the big melt. We had our first really, New England style snowstorm uh, over what is today, Tuesday. I guess we had it on Sunday and Monday. Snow everywhere, and but now it's supposed to warm up and melt all the snow, and now they're worried about flooding. So we're either snowed in or wait until the rain comes tonight and tomorrow. I know. Then we're I mean, this is fun weather. I just stay inside. I got a few meetings I have to go to, and there's this one road. Apparently, there's this part of it that floods because we're up on a ridge, and then there's some wetlands, and then another ridge. So we go down, and part of the road on the bottom part is floods. I tell you, we probably it's the only way I know of. We have signs for turtle crossings. For somebody somebody made a bunch of homemade signs years ago. We used to go down where they had these turtles would cross because from one part of the wetland to the other, and so they get squashed, and so everyone was started looking out for the turtles. And I remember one day one guy had stopped, and there was a snapping turtle, and those guys are mean. I don't, but he was crossing the road, so we all stopped and got everybody to stop until the snapping turtle could get across. Now we have those official signs with turtle crossings. We have deer crossing, turtle crossings. The problem though is bears, and so we don't have a bear crossing. I figure they just watch out for the bears. Okay. Um, I don't know what the thing about making your own watch is that you learn about watches. you know, uh, this one was a lot of fun to make, and you know, and I learned something every time I do it. I learn something new. Favorite complication at the moment? I'm currently obsessing over perpetual calendars. I still want a Remontoy Égalité. That is my. Mm, mm, mm. That's why I like the JLC True Second, because it looks something like a Remontoy, but I don't think it is. But it looks maybe sort of a repertoire-ish. Hi, Amika. Let's see. Okay, so the favorite complication, yeah, perpetual calendars. To me, the one, what's that? What's the guy's name who made the perpetual calendar? Octad, uh, and he did it like using what 4 or 5 parts for a perpetual calendar, whereas Patek Philippe used 250 for theirs. As far as perpetual calendars go, I think the best one is actually made by H. Moser. One of the reasons is that it's so easy to reset. I'm not into perpetual calendars. At my age, I might I'll run out before they are. But um, even triple calendars is, I just don't like setting calendars for some reason. I snapped the second hand in two, waiting for a new finish. Oh, I tell you, um, Brian, don't feel bad about that. I had to buy a whole box of screws and clamps because every time I do it, one of the screws flies into the great void of watch parts. You never see it again. H. Moser's perpetual calendar with a secret Andrea Stellar movement. I don't think it's too secret about the Andreas Stellar to it. Andreas Stellar has helped so many different watch companies. They also were the ones who helped Maurice Lacroix and helped them develop their own movement. Ludwig Oeschle, that's the guy, Brian, that I was thinking of. Yeah, his stuff is really interesting. There, he was working with a couple other really young, top-notch watchmakers, and I'm trying to think, was that the name of the company too? If you've ever seen one, they have all these little holes and stuff, and once you get used to it, you can just glance at it and figure out everything about it. It's sort of a cool thing. Okta, that's who they are. Ocean, yeah. Uh, it, it's sort of their style, Angus, is I think it would not be one I would, once I got used to it, probably I don't know if that style would go. It's almost like they look like they're made of wood, and nothing wrong with wood, but I don't know. I know what you mean though. Yeah, it would be the style Ogden Juniors. Ryan, but it's a shame that Moser's perpetual doesn't tell the day. Oh, it's not a day date? Yeah, I guess they leave the hard part up to the user. I don't know. I mean, it's like, to me, it tells time. I've got an iPhone, and that thing tells me everything I need to know. It's just everything. It says, you need to know this, it'll tell me. I can be watching TV, and my wife and I might be discussing something, and one of us will look it up on our iPhone if we're not sure. I use it for spelling all the time. But yeah, I think the day, I can get the day from that. Yeah, not a day date. I have my day date is a Harry Winston, and it has this dual retrograde. In fact, it's called the Premier by retrograde. And on one side you have it's seconds, and it's a 30-second retrograde. So the thing is whoop, 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 and the other and the other retrograde is days of the week. It's every day, and the other one's going like that. So that's my. I don't even, first of all, I have to set the day, and that's another hassle with calendars. Yeah, well, the thing I like about they may have quit doing this too, but I really liked it. The thing I liked about the H. Moser was that they had this little stub of an arrow, and it is simply it went around the 12 different stops, and that's a month of the year. I mean, there are 12 months in a year, so they just have this little stubby one, and you can look at that and figure out, oh, okay, so that's a month. And then they had the day of the month. I guess they used a window on it. I don't know, but I remember Mike Margolis was showing it. He used to be the American rep for them. He was showing me. I think it's so easy to adjust. Yeah, I know. In 2075. Oh, yeah, it's like the day, I love the Vacheron Constantin triple calendar. I really like that. But you know, every month you'd have to reset the thing and get the days all squared away. Perpetual calendar. What do you do when perpetual calendar? You gotta keep them wound, otherwise you got to reset them, and that's why I like the H. Moser. But I suppose I'm a lazy watch collector because I like to work too hard on them. Anyway, guys, well, listen, I just thought that'd be fun to have a chat, and I want to thank you guys for all dropping by from us unannounced, and have a great week. And oh, by the way, too, I'm gonna have I'll be finishing off the video. We had two videos on how we made our Brigade Nouveau, and I'll be finishing that. Have that maybe tomorrow. I'll see if I can get that done. Anyway, guys, thank you all. Take care. Have a good week.